Good evening, and welcome to The Caring View, the online health and social care platform free to access to absolutely everybody. Can you believe it? We're back. We've had a couple of weeks off, but we are back fighting fit. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe, hit that follow, hit that like, whatever social media platform you are watching us on, give us a follow. www.thecaringview.co.uk for all of our free resources, access to our podcast, chat show episodes, our suppliers, and most importantly, our sponsors. Everything we do at The Caring View is completely free. Will never cost you a penny. And if it does cost you a penny in the future, sue me. That's my disclaimer. We are only free because of our fantastic, generous, amazing sponsors, all people who are benefiting the social care sector themselves. So before we get into tonight's show, all about medication, let's do a quick roll call. So we have Prosperworld, the UK's leading digital marketing agency, www.prosperworld.co.uk. If you don't catch any of these websites, don't worry, head over to our website. They are all up on there. Just click their images and you'll go directly through to them. We have CBAT, Care Business Associates Training, for all of your healthcare training requirements. I keep saying this. I advocate them. I use them. They're amazing. Their training is responsive. Their training is good quality. My team love it. The learners are benefiting from it. So please do check them out. We have Attis Care by Attis Insurance Brokers, comprehensive care coverage and proactive risk management. And they are also a helpful voice on the other end of the line. We say this every single week, but Log My Care, the intuitive care management platform loved by complex care providers all around the country, and they do have a freemium version. So if you want to try before you buy, if you're sort of dipping your toes in, contracts are running up, go look at them, go check them out, and you can try them before you buy. We have Health Automated Online and Enlearningment Online, and both the brainchild of Mr. Jack White, not the drummer, guitarist, or whatever he is from the White Stripes. No, Jack White, the AI guru, who is transforming how we look at AI and care. And Jack AI also powers our wonderful website. We've got Florence, directly connecting healthcare professionals and organizations with shifts and training around the country. Screw the agencies. Try Florence. It's amazing. You can pick who you want, when they want. Tell people you don't want them anymore because they were naff. Check their training, print the profiles. Great evidence for you when you are looking at Regulation 18 staffing. See what I did there? And we also have Every Step Care Consultancy, transforming care services with tailored consultancy, turnaround management, coaching, and compliance support. Nicola Holmes is a babe. Go and check her out. She is amazing. And Every Step Care Consultancy for all of your needs. Mark, bloody hell, how are you? I've not seen you for ages.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. Feels like a lot longer than 2 weeks. Feels like it does feel like months. But no, I'm good.
Doesn't help that I'm naff on WhatsApp at the minute either.
That's all right. Just keep bombarding you. Hello.
You're doing good though?
Yeah, not too bad. Same old, different day, different month.
How was Paris? Did we enjoy it?
Paris was good. It wasn't a holiday. It was a lot of exercise, a lot of trekking around. But yeah, it was good. I'm planning a beach holiday next. Sun, sand, cocktails. Yeah, right on my street.
Very nice. Well, great to be back. Glad to be back here with you. We have one of our most favourite guests joining us tonight. If you've watched our previous show with Julie Garrity, or if you joined us at UK Care Week, Julie has the knowledge. She has the know. She has the expertise. She has the experience. So we are blessed by the wisdom and the presence of Julie Garrity tonight. Good evening, Julie. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, guys. And it's very nice to see you both looking so well, even if Mark still looks like a cartoon. I'm very impressed by that. I want one of those filters. It'll work nicely. But I actually want the one that makes me look like Angelina Jolie. Is that possible?
I think it's called beer. No, I'm joking. I'm teasing. You already look like Angelina Jolie, Julie.
Yeah, nice try. I'm not buying that. We can live. We can live with it. I call that flattery.
Oh well. I have been known to flatter people from time to time. Julie, for those who don't know you, and if you don't know Julie, why the heck not? Go and follow her on LinkedIn for starters. But Julie, who are you, where are you from, and what do you do?
Right, okay, so I'm Julie Garrity and I live in the northwest, as you can probably tell by this accent, halfway between St Helens and Liverpool, bit Scouse on a good day. The more I get into Liverpool, the more Scouse I get. The further away from Liverpool, the less Scouse I get. So my background is I'm a qualified nurse. I spent 22 years in CQC as an inspector inspecting just about every kind of service you could possibly think about. So I was an inspector manager in mental health. And my worst claim to fame is I was also the person that did the criminal investigations. So I was the one that prosecuted you, not personally. I was the one who investigated you for the prosecution. And then CQC chose what to do after that. So I've been footloose and fancy free from CQC for a couple of years now, and I've set up on my little lonesome, just doing the things that I like to do, and trying to help those people that I think could do with a bit of support.
Well, honestly, the knowledge and experience you have and you bring to this show, we absolutely love. So thank you so much for joining us. And no hate on the CQC background, because we need the regulator. As much as we want to poo-poo him and moan and groan and all of that jazz, we need regulation. We need people to keep us in check, and we need people to be unbiased, to be objective, but also to be sort of proactive with us. So have no shame about that, Julie. You were probably one of the good ones that maybe lost you.
I loved it.
Good. Maybe I'm falling a little out of love with you now because you love. No, I'm joking. I'm teasing.
No, I had some fantastic colleagues, Adam. That was why. Really good people to work with.
So tonight we're talking medication matters, improving practice, and learning without blame in social care. It's going to be a practical session. We're looking at some of the common poor practices, the importance of effective auditing, digital solutions, and how to create a no blame culture that encourages learning from mistakes. Now, some things in this that I absolutely love, no blame. I hate the blame culture that currently happens in social care between services, between stakeholders, internally in our own organizations. You did that, you are wrong. I also love the focus that we're going to have on learning outcomes, how we share those learning outcomes. What do we actually mean by a learning outcome? Not just a case of won't do this again. How do we actually implement stuff that's going to transform and improve our services, that continuous quality improvement? So, Julie, let's start with asking a question, which I know we've answered on the show a couple of times, but with your knowledge and expertise. Is medication a regulated activity?
No, it's not a regulated activity, but it is a regulation. It falls into Regulation 12. Your regulation activities are your standard boring ones like personal care, TDDI, all of that kind of stuff. But medication is within Regulation 12. And I'm really going to be sad. I'm going to tell you exactly which regulation. It's Regulation 12.1.2G. That's how sad I can be. And that talks about the safe administration, management, and storage of medication in its nutshell. However, medication within that regulation doesn't sit on its own, because you've got to have systems and processes, which is going to fall you into Regulation 17. You've got to do it in a person-centered way, which is going to get you into Regulation 9. If you're giving out covert medication, you're going to get into Regulation 11. And if you do it wrong, you're going to hit safeguarding in Regulation 13. So it does not sit just in Regulation 12, but it's not a regulated activity.
No,
sorry,
wonderful.
That was a long answer to a
No.
very short question.
No, perfect. And I think for me, it just highlights the importance of knowing our regulations more so than actually knowing the actual inspection framework, because we all know CQC are changing the framework again. We know the quality statements are changing yet again. Yes, there is at the minute a quality statement around medication administration. Fabulous. It's wonderful. We don't know what the quality statements are going to be moving forwards. It's going to a multi-assessment framework. Blah, 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 blah. The regulations aren't changing. The regulations will be the same. So get to know your regs, get to learn your regs, and really monitor your service alongside those regs. I mean, sure, branch out and map it to your quality statements, but your regs are your Bible. The regs are something that you should know and you should understand. One thing I learned from you, Julie, one of the last times we spoke, was Regulation 12, which is safe care and treatment, Regulation 17, which is good governance, are the most breached regulations within social care.
Constantly and consistently, and they flag out at the top 60% for breaches.
Which is crazy. And I did an event not long ago, and I asked the audience to pop their hands up if they knew what Regulation 12 was, and I got no hands. And I asked the audience to pop their hands up if they knew what Regulation 17 was, and I got no hands. And then I asked the audience to pop their hands up if they didn't like the CQC, and I got loads of hands. And I was like, fine, fair. Don't moan about the CQC unless you know your regulations, though, because your regulations are what they're coming to check to make sure that we are working towards, to make that sure we are adhering and we are meeting them. And if you don't know your regs as the registered individual who is legally responsible for that service, a little bit worrying. So get to know your regs. So no, I'm really, really happy with your answer, Julie. I think that explained it perfectly. Mark.
Yeah, no, just on the back of that, I wrote down person-centered way, kind of my ears pricked. So there'll be a lot of people out there thinking, how do we meet person-centered care in regards to medication, especially when, you know, it comes in, the doctor's prescribed it, it's on a MAR chart, whether it's digital, paper still. How can providers make sure that they're delivering it and administering medication in a person-centered way? What are some top tips?
First one is, before they even come through the door, find out what their general routine is for their medications. Because what generally happens is people come in and you suddenly giving them medications in a round that they want you that they didn't have. They didn't used to have their medications at 9 a.m. Now you're giving it to them at 9 a.m. because they didn't get up until 9:30. So they didn't have their meds till 10. So that's the first thing. Second thing is find out what they want to do for themselves. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing. You don't have to take all the medications off that person and do it all for them. You need to find out what they can manage for themselves and what they want to manage for themselves, and what you feel within the basis of a risk assessment they can actually handle. I would never dream of taking somebody's inhaler off them and holding it in a medicines cabinet. Where's the logics in that? You've got to look at what they can and cannot do. If you've got somebody who's been giving themselves insulin for the last 20 years, why would you suddenly start doing it for them? So it starts before they've walked through the door, assess what they need, assess what they want, and assess what they want to do. And then from there, build that around your support plan, because lots of people, or your care plan, the mass majority of care plans I read around medicines are a big list of the medicines and where I order them from and where I store them. They include policy. That's not what you want on a person-centered way. How do they want their medicines? What times do they want their medicines? Is it mapping what that's actually been prescribed? For example, you could have somebody on Parkinson's medicines, which is very time specific, and they may have written that they should have that Parkinson medicine at 6 o'clock in the morning, but they don't wake up till 7. Are you going to go and wake them up at 6 o'clock in the morning? There's not a logic in that. That's about going back to the consultants and having that conversation with that person as well. Just think about it. If it was me, what would I want? Now, I know that a lot of care services are going to end up with a routine. So they'll end up with a medicines round in the morning and one in the afternoon and one in the evening and all of that kind of stuff. But there's no reason why you can't look at adapting that some way or another. It's already onerous. It takes hours to do a medicines round. If you're going to do them in a care service, do as a medicines round as a task, straight away, I'm out of person-centered care. I'm into a task. So it's looking at what we can do within the environment, how we plan it, and from the very beginning, before they even walk through the door, what is it they need?
No, thank you very much. Adam, anything from you on that before I follow up?
No, I just think for a lot of services, even myself, just thinking about that, it's an overwhelming prospect to try and implement something like that, because we are so used to the archaic of medication rounds, 7 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock. We're used to doing that. And I don't think for any moment there's any shame in us still working that way. But as long as we can start thinking about how we then adapt moving forwards, that's your outstanding practice. That's your sort of outstanding person-centered practice. Thinking outside the box, utilizing your team to sort of support with that administration. I mean, I'm not saying secondary dispensing, popping out your meds and saying, right, there you go, off you pop, go and give someone these tablets. Not advocating that in the slightest. But utilizing how you can use your team for other things so that it frees up a more person-centered approach to medication administration, I think's great. And I know we'll get onto it later, but that also applies to PRNs, it applies to COVID medication, it applies to topical creams, it applies to quite a lot. Well, in fact, all of their medication.
It's medication,
Sure that we're making all of that as person-centered as possible. Have you got a covert plan? Yeah. Are you giving it in covert every single time just because you've got a covert plan?
Shouldn't.
Well, then you're not really working in the most person-centered, dignified way. You're robbing them of that choice of taking the tablets normally before you then have to implement your covert protocols. Sorry, Mark. I'm in therapy, by the way. And one of the things I talk about in therapy is I talk too much, which is sort of ironic going to therapy and all you do is talk about yourself. But I've become very conscious that I talk too much, and I'm learning to recognize that and stop myself and hand over. And I could have said all of that without going on a huge sort of monologue in which I'm talking too much. So I've got some good material now for my therapist on Thursday. Mark, over to you.
No, it's okay. Your therapist is loving it. I bet they're like, yeah, keep talking. We're racking up the time. We can talk about PRNs because Petros has popped it in the comments as well. I definitely have fallen foul when managing care services, especially care homes, in terms of those routine, times that you spoke about, the AM shift, the lunchtime, tea time, PM. I think outlook now is very different for me. Obviously, I'm now reablement services, and the local authority won't fund ongoing care for medication, regardless of how many tablets and the need. So I think our teams have to work really closely with the individual, with their families, with telecare and telehealth in terms of being able to upskill people within that 6-week period to go from managing whatever, but to managing independently with the skills. And I think that's really kind of transformed the way that I look at medication and the independence that you can actually give back to somebody. So I love the fact that you spoke there around actually what can the person do. But PRNs then. Petros has put PRN protocols, for example. Julie, are you able just to speak to us about PRN protocols? Because I know I've taken over a number of services historically, and I am going back a number of years, but didn't have PRN protocols in place. And when I've spoken to kind of managers about them, there's a lot of managers that still don't know what a PRN protocol is.
PRN plan, PRN protocol, not necessarily exactly the same thing. And I'll explain the difference to you in a minute. Most PRNs, per required need. So, let's stick at the basic one, paracetamol, occasional headache, take 2 paracetamol, call me in the morning. So most people will have a PRN plan for a paracetamol that they take every now and then because they've got the right for that, or they've got pains in their knees or something like that. And your PRN protocol. Sorry, you don't like silence, neither do I, fair Adam. Okay, thanks. Petros. I was just reading Petros's comments. I was distracted. Anyway, let me get back to the PRNs. So you will have a PRN plan, and they're usually per single drug. Your PRN protocols may have many drugs in them. So, for example, let's just say somebody with epilepsy that has to have pain relief, diazepam, and Epilim because they're having an issue with their epilepsy. They may have several drugs involved, so to be given at different points in times. They will be a protocol, but most PRN plans are a single drug. Most people overly complicate them and they miss the main point. All you really need is 4 points in a good PRN plan. What is the medication? What's the dose? What's the rationalization? What's it for? Sorry, what's the medication? What's it for? And what's the rationalization that I need to be able to give it? So that might be that Mary's quite capable of telling me she's got a headache. I'm done with the rationalization. That's it. I don't need to start writing down a whole load of symptoms because she can tell me. But it might be Mary can't tell me. And when she's in pain, she rubs her left knee and she cries or she moans or whatever. And I want that in as much detail as possible. So what's the medication? What's it for? What's my rationalization for giving it? And the one that everybody forgets is, how do I monitor it was effective? Everybody forgets it. There is no point in giving a PRN medication if you're not checking it worked. Because if you can't feed that back to GP to say, we've given those paracetamol, it's not touching the side, she needs something else. How can you do that if you haven't got a protocol that allows a PRN plan that allows you to do it, and then a measure that says we go back in half an hour, make sure she hasn't got a headache. We go back in 2 hours and do this and do that and do the other. Your PRN plans are much better dependent on your environment, not within your care plan. You can reference in your care plan, please see PRN protocols, because you want it in front of your face. You want it with your medication administration records. I don't want to be running around trying to log onto a system, wait for it to upload, scroll down the 20 different places I've got to scroll down, upload the Adobe documents, read that, all while I'm trying to find out whether Mary needs a couple of paracetamol or not. I want it in front of my face so I can just go and read it and go, yep, she can have them paracetamol. Does that help?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Does that help, Petros? Go on, sorry.
No, don't apologise. With regards to PRN protocols, do they need a sign-off from a GP or not? No.
No, because you've asked for that information. You've asked for that. You've gone through all of that. You don't need a sign off to give every other medication. Why do you need a sign off for that? You've got a prescription for it. That's your sign off. The one that most people fall over with is the creams. So you've got a cream being given, a topical medication. You'll probably have a TMAR for that. Not necessarily a MAR, but you'll have a TMAR. And if anybody's worrying about that, I'll explain that one in a minute. You've asked that GP. We need something because Mary's bottom's a bit red, and we need to put something. I'll stick with Mary because poor Mary's having a tough life here. Mary's bottom needs a little bit of cream every now and then. So you've already told the GP what you want and why you want it. So you already know what it's for. Or you've asked them for paracetamol because Mary's getting a headache. All of the, well, she's got knee pain or things like that. You know exactly what it's for. And if you don't know what it's for, ask and then put that in your PRN plan. But it doesn't need a sign off by the GP. He's prescribed it. He signed it off already.
What if it was something over the counter? So say it's paracetamol over the counter.
That's a homely remedy. That's different.
Would you then need a PRN protocol signed if you've got a homely remedy?
Nope, that's homely remedies. It's a completely different thing. Homely remedies or over-the-counter medicines is a different process and a different policy. PRN plans are something where somebody has had this prescription because they need to take it on a PRN basis. Over-the-counter medication and homely remedies, as they're often called, is the same rights that you and I have got. So if you don't take paracetamol on a PRN basis or you don't have it on a regular basis, but you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a headache, you and I would walk downstairs to our cabinet and take a couple of paracetamol and then be allowed to do that. Or we could buy them over the counter. So it's affording people who live in our services with exactly the same rates as we've got. Now, most homely remedies policies will tell you these are the kinds of things that we can have. These are the kinds of things that we can't, and you buy them. They're not on prescription. They're bought by the service. They're kept separately. They're not belonging to the individual because they didn't come on a script. They're yours. And your homely remedies over-the-counter medication should state exactly how long you're going to give them for before you're going to refer to a doctor. Now, there will be some incidences that you might want to call 111 or just have a bit of advice from the chemist because, you don't know whether what they've got is going to be counteracting. And there are some medicines that can counteract. So you might want to choose to ask those questions as well. And no, homely remedies do not need signing off by a GP because mine and yours don't.
Just for people considering homely remedies, I've got a couple of questions or points really about PRNs, but where would people who aren't using homely remedies at the minute, where do you sign to record that you've given them? Do you have to make a mark sheet up for it or do you just
you can sign it in the book. Sign it anyway. A medication administration record is not a legal document. It's actually the property of your patient. It belongs to them. It was a gift from the chemist who gave them. It's a gift from the chemist. It's their property who gave it to them, or a gift from you if you make your own. Now, you don't have to write, and this is going to be very complex, but let me just try and avoid it for making it very difficult. You don't have to have a medication administration record in the format we all recognise as a medication administration record. What you have to do is record you gave those medicines at that time, what the dose was, all of that kind of stuff. So if you're giving a homely remedy, record it in a book, record it on the back of a piece of paper. As long as you've got a record, I gave 2 paracetamol at 7 o'clock with good effect. 2 50 milligram, 500 milligram paracetamols with good effect. Or good effect is a terribly nursing phrase. Gave the 2 paracetamol, went back half an hour later, Mary said her pain had gone. That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
I was actually shorthanding with the nursing bit there. Sorry, won't do that again. And so you've got it in there, but your policy will say you can't give it for longer than 72 hours. And you should know because every paracetamol box that you buy will still come with the patient information leaflet that says don't give any more than 8 in a 24-hour period and 4 hours apart. Best bit you can have in any medication is that patient information leaflet that's in the box, and it's free.
Yeah. So just a couple of things around PRNs. I can't understand anyone who won't have their PRN plans in the Marble books. I just don't understand that.
No, makes no sense to me either.
Some things that I've seen in PRNs before, especially PRN plans, is when the medication is a variable dose as well. Yes. So you've got something and it's like, I'll use a laxative, as an example. Such and such hasn't had their bowels open in 48 hours, prescribe or administer this medication. But the medication instruction is one or two sachets twice a day when needed. And you go, well, actually, how many do I start off with? Do I start off with 2 straight away? Do I go for 1 and then observe and see where I'm going? So it's around that specificity of actually what you're giving and how much you're giving. And again, Julie, how you monitor it and how you
and you can have that in normal medications as well, that are just on a more variable doses. First thing is go back to your GP and say, tell me exactly what you want.
Yes.
Give me a clue. When do I give 1? When do I give 2?
Yeah.
Or you'll get things like the same, paracetamol, stick with that. It's an easy one, give 1 or 2. Now, if you're a care staff, you can't make that decision because that's a clinical decision. If you're a nurse, you can make that decision because you can go through all the Poem threshold decision making and all of that kind of stuff. But the first thing is, don't let your GP write that in a script in the first place. Go back and say, make the decision. You decide, your mate. Like they'll send you a medication for a cream and it says apply as directed. Well, no, put the directions. Put the directions on.
So I know we're not on auditing yet, but that is a question on our medication audit that I've put in is, are there any medications that are written as directed? Because if so, go back to your GP and tell them to tell us where to put the bloody stuff.
Yeah. Put it
my
on
other thing that I've seen on PRNs, which really does irk me, is when the review, because we review ours monthly, and I've always reviewed my PRN protocols, plans, whatever, monthly, because if we're giving regular PRNs, I want to know straight away so we can adapt.
Because it now shouldn't be a PRN. Yeah.
Exactly. But, and I've seen this for years, I'm not just talking about my current services, but for years I've seen this, and you'll look at the back of the PRN plan and it'll say, reviewed, no changes. And I'm like, but how many have they had during that month?
That's what you want to know. Yeah.
How much have they had? What was it for? Was it all the same thing they were having it for? Because where's the narrative for the review? And I'm not going to go into a narrative of care plan reviews, but we see the same for care plans. Reviewed, care chain, no care need, blah, 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 bull. Actually, no. What has led you to the decision that no changes are needed?
Yeah.
Because if you've got a PRN and actually they've not had it for 4 months, do we still need to be having it as a PRN?
No. It's going. Your medicine's going out of date now.
Exactly. If you've got a PRN and it's paracetamol and they're having it 3 to 4 times a day, every day, is it any more a PRN? No. Let's get rid of it and let's put it onto our regular medications. But without that information in your reviews, you can't do anything about that. No. And if you're still on paper Mars, that means digging into their resident files, pulling out all of those paper Mars and counting up the meds yourself. Just include that information on your reviews, please. It'll make your life so much easier. And it will get picked up by pharmacy teams, especially by the CQC when they come in if you're not reviewing your PRNs properly.
But that also takes you back to the point, Adam, that is very often missing on PRNs. Monitor the effectiveness.
Oh, honestly, the recording of the outcomes. And most good pharmacies now, if you're still on paper Mars, most good pharmacies now will send you on the back. I would love this to be in an auditorium and ask people to put their hands up of how often that is actually filled in, because I know it doesn't always get filled in. I've seen it not always getting filled in. Reason for giving, what was the outcome? And it's not getting filled in. And I don't know, maybe EMARs are better because it prompts you to go back and check. We're 50-50 across our services at the moment. 50 use, 50 don't use EMAR. I'm actually really enjoying the EMAR process because it gives you more insight. But with more insight comes more data. With more data comes more governance and oversight. And with more governance and oversight comes more chances to shoot yourself in the feet by not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So bear that in mind, just FYI. I had no questions there. I just went off on a rant. Sorry.
More to talk to your counsellor about, Adam.
I know, honestly. She's probably thinking, what a chump. Easy book, this incoming.
Right, what's next?
Adam, have you got anything that you want to discuss? I have, but go on.
No, I'll go over to you. I'll go over to you, but I do want to talk about covert meds.
Right, let's do covert meds next, because I feel like the bit I want is a bit more generic, and I feel like we can just tap it in at the end.
Right, and I also want to talk about time-specific and time-sensitive medicines.
All right, let's do those
Which
first.
ones do you want to go first?
Yours, Julie.
Time-specific and time-sensitive medicines drives me insane. So you will find, and I've got to get onto a separate subject before I get there. How many services are still using blister packs to give out medicines?
Not
You'll be
me.
surprised. I'm glad
Not
you're
mine.
not. Best guidance and the nice guidelines and CQC all say original packaging. And there's a very good reason for it, because what you will end up with is a morning blister pack. And in that blister pack, you may find that you've got levothyroxine, lansoprazole, and aspirin to be given first thing in the morning. The issue with that is if you read your pills, you cannot give levothyroxine with lansoprazole. Both levothyroxine and lansoprazole have to be given half an hour to an hour before food, and aspirin has to be given with food. So those things drive me bonkers, because you're misdirecting the care staff then, because they've got it all in one little blister. So they think I can give it all together, and they don't read the pills and they don't read the instructions because it's all in the blister. So I'm going to pop them all out and I'm going to give them to the person. Time specific medicines have to be thought about, and you have to think about them quite clearly. The other thing to think about within that is, as well as, quite often medicines will be give once a day, but you give them in the morning. So then you make your whole morning round really, really, really onerous. But if you could have a conversation with your service user and your service user, the person in your GP, and say, look, you're getting this in the morning. Are you okay to have it at night or in the afternoon or something like that? Then we can do those kinds of things as well. So you're being a bit more person centered, but you're taking the pressure off your staff as well. Now, your time critical medicines are the ones that have to be given at a specific time. And those will very often be things like Parkinson's medicines, that your consultant has said they need to be given at that particular time. How often they get missed is amazingly bad. And your Parkinson's medicines can be given within half an hour before, half an hour afterwards. So if it's at 3 o'clock, you can give it at 2:30 till 3:30. You've got an hour's window. How can you not do it within that hour's window? Always defeats me. So those are two that get really picked up on CQC. It's about number 3 on the list of offences. Number 2 is your PRNs. Number 3 is time criticals. Covert meds. Next.
Well, no, I think the time critical ones are also really interesting, because every now and then, depending on how bored I am on my days, I do like to try and triangulate. Someone's on sort of half an hour before food meds.
Yep,
Perfect.
that's time sensitive. Yeah.
I'm going to look at that, but then I'm also going to look at their care record and see what time they had breakfast, because that'll be interesting.
So
Oh,
does
they had breakfast 3 hours later. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So all of that is really interesting, and it's supposed, it is like Sudoku. It's hard to get all of this matching up, and it's difficult. No one's lying about this. It's not a walk in the park for everyone, but it's just around making sure. I mean, this is super bloody important. So come on, we've just got to put the effort in, really. Covert meds.
Okay.
Covert plans. Who can, when can, what are covert meds?
Covert meds, medicines that you give to somebody that they don't know they're getting.
And can I just decide that?
Right, okay. Shall we go through the whole thing? No, you've got the Mental Capacity Act. First and foremost, we have to start with, does this person have the capacity to make this decision at this time? It's not a blanket decision. Just because I've got a deprivation of liberty safeguarding order in place does not mean that that person cannot make that decision. So we start there. We assume capacity unless we've got any particular belief that for any reason or another, that person does not know and doesn't understand those medicines, or that they're going to get them, or anything else like that. Now, if I'm going to somebody and saying, Mary, will you take your medicines? And she sticks her hands out, I've got implied consent. We're all good here. She knows to stick her hand out. If she can tell me anything about them or anything, poor Mary's still having a tough time here. I'm really sorry for Mary. I'm going to have to go and have a word with her later. I could give her a bit of reassurance, maybe a teddy bear and a bit of chocolate, but that's another story. So you've got to have that plan, but you can't give covert medicines every single time. You have to determine whether they're going to need them covertly or not. And it's not every single medicine. I can't suddenly give every medicine covertly because I've decided it. It has to be those medicines that the GP or the doctor or the prescriber deems as essential, that if they don't get them, they're going to die. If they don't get them, we're going to get some serious ramifications. So your covert plan, your covert discussions has to start with your Mental Capacity Act. It then has to move into your best interest discussion. And that best interest discussion should also include how we're going to give those medicines. So, am I going to give it in a jam butty? And if so, how? Am I going to put it in an ice cream? And if so, how? And you need your pharmacy involved in here, because they'll be able to tell you, you can put it in water, you can put it in milk, you can put it in this, you can put it in that. So you can write your entire covert plan out quite easily from that, based on those discussions. But I don't default to covert. I have to try and manage the medications in the very beginning to see whether the person will take them for me. And it's only if they're defaulting to covert. But the other side of that equation is to take into account is, just because they're saying, I don't want to take them, means they don't want to take them. And if they've got the capacity to say, I don't want to take them, you can't make them. And you can't hide it, and you can't give it to them in a hidden methodology in any way, place, or show. And you have to monitor that. So on your MAR, you should be actually recording whether that was given covertly or not. And the others are refused.
Yeah. And back it up with a care note as well.
Yeah,
Like, literally back it up with a care note. The amount of times, like, a medicine's been refused on a MAR, and you've recorded it on the MAR that it's been refused, but you've not put anything in the care notes to say this person refused their meds today because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
We know. Or care plan reviews. You've got a medication care plan. Fabulous. How many of your reviews talk about how many times medicines were refused during that month's period, and whether you need to start looking at additional support? I think some of the important stuff for me, Julie, as well, around the coverts is, if your covert plan from your GP says mix with water, doesn't really give you the permission then to mix it with yogurt or milk. If it says mix with water, you mix with water. I mean, there are some medications that will interact poorly with things like milk, but at the end of the day, you have to go from what your plan says. You can't then make that decision to go, actually, I'm going to mix it with something else.
Well, your GP is not writing your covert plan, Adam. You are.
Well, ours gets signed off by
You're having
the
a best
GPs
interest discussion. Your best interest discussion. So that's not everybody has to sit around the table. It can be an exchange of emails, it can be letters and all of that kind of stuff. But you write the covert plan, and it still doesn't need signing off by a GP. But what you
Interesting. A lot of ours are, so I'm going to look into this then.
Yep, you don't, because you're making those decisions, that you're the ones who are driving the mental capacity assessment and the best interest discussion. That's you. You're the people who are looking after them. You're doing that. So it's your responsibility to make sure you've gone through your best interests, you've got the right information, you've put your plan together, you've consulted with the GP, you've consulted with the pharmacy, you've consulted with the staff, you've consulted with their relatives, all of that kind of stuff. GP can't give you the authority to give medicines covertly.
Interesting.
That is really interesting. Authority.
That is
discussion.
Yeah. That is really interesting.
Within the Mental Capacity Act. And if you think that the GP signing your covert plan is going to afford you any protection, it doesn't. It's just going to say, they just told me to sign it, so I did.
Right.
It carries no authority at all.
Learn something new every day.
It's the Mental Capacity Act you've got to stick to on that one.
Oh, I mean, 100%, obviously.
Yeah. But the Mental Capacity Act will also tell you that it's your best interest discussion and your capacity assessment that are the key issues there. And if you are the ones responsible for the care of that person, you're the drivers for it, not the GP.
And always, we want to work in the least restrictive way possible.
Yes,
so exactly. We want to be as least restrictive as we possibly can be, which again brings you back, Julie, to you saying don't just go cover just because you've got the plan. Yeah. Go and offer them the choice, give them the independence.
Can they make this decision at this time? But it's a different day. It's a different time.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Mark, before we come over to you and your question, I wonder whether we want to have a quick look at stuff in the chat.
Yep, go for it.
So, Tina, first off, evening, Petros. Petros joins us pretty much every week. Petros is a gem. We love you, Petros. We hope you are okay. Tina has come in with a question. I'd like to ask a great question. When you get to that section with the change in instructions for GPs on prescribing medications such as analgesic, paracetamol, cough liners, some of the laxative groups, antihistamines, some of the external ointments, how are services managing this through their home medicine policy, or are they also using the over-the-counter policy?
I know, Tina, so Tina and I speak to each other quite frequently because we've got a lot in common. I think what you're talking about, Tina, if I'm right or I'm wrong, is this is the over-the-counter medicines, and are you managing it in a policy? Oh, sorry, my iPad's just suddenly decided to play for some strange reason. If you mention it with an over, yeah, you need a policy and a procedure, and this brings me to the other thing as well. Is I'm not fussed with policies and procedures that are all in one, because that's just ridiculous. Because your policy is what your organisation's commitment is, and your procedure is how you expect your staff to do it. I don't expect staff to read or be fully familiar with every policy, but I damn well want them to be familiar with the procedure. So that will be the bits that you are covering in there, your policy and your attached procedure, to make sure that you are doing that. Is that what you mean, Tina? Am I
Tina, if
reading that
not,
right?
and if you think Julie's talking absolute tripe, get into the comments, let us know.
Probably does. She probably does. She quite frequently does.
No, I'm teasing Julie, obviously. No, that makes huge sense to me. And in fact, having an, it's probably easy to have an overarching medication policy, which is split into sub policies. So
Yes,
this is
exactly.
our home policy for medication, which is made up of this policy, this policy, this policy, this policy,
And these procedures.
Yes.
Because not every person needs to know the same procedures for the same things, because they're all doing different bits within that role.
Yeah. So about making sure the scope in your policies are correct. You're breaking down that scope per role as well. Petros has come in and said, "Oh my God, I'm thinking of returns as well. It used to be a nightmare, I remember." So
still is.
Gross. Hate returns. Different for nursing homes and residential homes as well. So, yep. Julie, can you give us some insight?
Right. If it's a nursing home, it's considered clinical waste, so it has to go through a clinical waste contract. So it goes into Duke boxes. You come across Duke boxes for controlled drugs, so that you denaturing, they're also called. So you throw them in and it completely destroys it. Or if you're in a residential home, you've probably got a returns box. My problem with the residential homes is the boxes that they're currently using is you're putting them in there, but any Tom, Dick and Harry can come along and take them out later. I'm not overly impressed with that particular process at the moment, because I could be signing out that we're returning 40 temazepam, and somebody comes along and takes those 40 temazepam, and those medicines are now diverted because there is a sales value for a temazepam. It's a street value for it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not mad fond of actually putting them into a box that you can get your hand back in later. So the only way to achieve that is don't put them in there until the day they're going. So, you store them under lock and key the same way that you store in every other medicine. You're not necessarily having to record them in the returns book until the day that the pharmacy is coming. 2 people record them, you put them in that, and you physically hand it over, so it's never been left on its own. So somebody can't come along and take the hands in and take it out. Now, I'm not accusing everybody of robbing medicines, but I have seen it. And I've seen controlled drugs stolen. I've seen just about, every medication you can think of. The common one is usually loperamide in the summer, because everybody's going on holiday and they don't want to suffer from diarrhea while they're away. So they take the anti-loperamide with them to just make sure it's all okay. That often gets robbed every year.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things. Go on. Is that what you want?
No. I love it. And returns are gross. For me, make sure in your returns book, if you're doing a bulk return of loads of meds, put the date next to each one individually.
Absolutely. And the amount.
It's so, the amount of times I've seen those sort of like the same, and they've followed it down, and then they've gone on to a next page and not carried the date on. They've just put that and followed it down. Number your pages in your returns book. It's so easy just to steal a page and mess it up like your accident book. So make sure they're numbered. And if you are thinking to yourself, well, actually, I ain't got time. Ain't nobody got time for this counting before I send them back on my returns. Get a special tape that only the manager has hold of. Put them in the box with a lid on. Wrap it round with shit tons of tape. And if that tape is broken, and if that tape is broken, someone's had the fingers in there. Yeah. Start sacking people left, right, and centre. There are ways around it.
Masking tape and dating them. Wrap up the tablets with masking tape and dating them, but make sure that you know what's in there, and make sure that before they go back, you're checking them, just so they didn't get diverted and are now sitting in somebody's wine cabinet as a bottle of wine that they converted it to after they sold it on the street.
I blame Breaking Bad and Nurse Jackie, because they all sort of glamorize the drug sector, don't they? Anyway, Amy says, "Hi there. This has been a really insightful conversation so far. Thank you all so much. Is this session recorded?" No, it's not, Amy. You've missed out. No, I'm joking. Of course it is. All of our sessions are always available on YouTube. You can catch them on our channel. If you go and subscribe, you will see all of our episodes from our previous 4 years of The Caring View. If you have got a bit of a boring moment, if your TV show is just recently finished, and you think, oh, I need something else to keep me entertained, go and watch 4 years of The Caring View. We are there. So yes, it is recorded, Amy, and it's free for you to use with anybody that you want to show this to. And we have Kavita, who says, can you enlighten us in the relation? Oh, Kavita also says, what a fantastic discussion, but I didn't pick that one. I've chosen this one because it's an actual question. Can you enlighten us in relation to controlled drugs in home care, please? Especially with most prescribed controlled drugs.
Okay, with relation?
Using controlled drugs in. I wonder whether this comes from, and Kavita, please come into the chat if I'm incorrect, but there's always this misconception that controlled drugs have to be given by a registered nurse. And I think in the community, it's a case of, well, they're not registered nurses anyway. But also for nursing homes, residential homes, they've got to be in a locked cupboard, in a locked room.
Yeah, they do.
And in community, what do you do?
In your house. They need to be kept secure. And again, it will depend on the medication, because some of them you are holding in the house, but you're not giving them, the district nurses are. You know, you've got your end-of-life medications. You're never going to be touching that. That's going to be down to the district nurses and possibly your palliative care team. But there may be some medications that are a controlled drug that person takes. Now, if they can manage that medicine themselves, you can store it where the hell you want and where they want, basically. If they're at risk of doing anything else, because I'll put my controlled drugs in, you know, wherever I think they should be if I needed them. I haven't got any, by the way, which is really sad, but never mind. Moving on. You know, you put them in the fridge or the cupboard. That's what you do in your own home. It's people's own homes. If you're concerned that they may actually get into them, then you put them in a lockbox. And you put it in your care plan. They're in that lockbox if you're managing those medications. But this also brings you to the problem that you've got with home care drugs, because most people get this very wrong. They think they are administrated if they're handling the medicines in any way, shape, or form. Not necessarily so. If Mary, poor Mary's still having a tough time. She's now in the home care environment, but I've moved out the care home, so she's doing some recovery going on here. If Mary just can't pop the blister pack to get the medicines out, you're not administering it. Mary's doing it. She's just using you for her hands because she can't physically use the arthritis to do it. She's completely in control. She's saying to you, can you pass me them 2 paracetamol there, Dove? But she just can't get them out. That's not administration. That's actually being in her hands. Go on.
So no, I remember this from my home care days, and I literally prohibited us from doing this for my teams. So I'd be interested to know whether I've done right here. Making up Dosset boxes as a carer.
No. Never, ever, ever. No. If Mary's managing her own medications, blister packet. If she's not, and you are totally in control as the care staff, original documents, original boxes only, and cover in your care plan what support she needs. There's this whole conversation, level 1, level 2, level 3. That went out 15 years ago. It's old hat. Who's the controlling mind of this process? Who's in charge of this process? So if you're just reminding her to take them, but you still need to go and get them out, that's not administration. If they're in a blister pack and you're giving them to them all, how can you sign to say I gave furosemide, this one, that one, when I've got 6 white tablets and the pharmacist didn't bother to identify them? So now I can't sign them because I don't know which one is which. There's nothing wrong with saying blister given, contents of blister from pharmacy given, and recording it like that. But no, you can't put them in a Dosset box. If you put them in a Dosset spot, that's secondary dispensing, and I certainly will shoot you at the door.
No, I had to ask that because it was home care. Mark, before we move on, so I've got one thing to mention about the box. We've got another question that's just come in, and then I'm going to hand over to you for more questions. But home care, Mark, obviously you're in the reablement service and anything like that. Anything that you want to ask or add about medications?
Not that I can think of. We won't go anywhere near anybody that's family filled. We won't touch it, do anything with it until that person's got it prescribed from the GP. I think reablement's slightly different because obviously the person's got to be able to do it themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, we can support, But
Yes.
if we know at that point of referral that they need support with medication, we decline that referral from coming into our service because they're not going to leave independent, which is the whole purpose of a reopenment service. So, yeah, I think medications for us, it's more about how we can get somebody independent, and is somebody, if they need support, who can do that for them in a safe, proactive way. I think the only thing to consider from my kind of reopenment hat is long term. Like if the neighbour's supporting or the daughter's support, can they sustain that long term? And what is the backup plan if that person themselves can't do it? Like if they're on holiday, they get admitted to hospital or something, what then happens to that individual that needs that support? But no, otherwise, everything that we've kind of discussed.
Okay.
Perfect. You just broke a thought of mine of topical medications, Julie, for people in nursing homes. There's this huge thing, and I don't know whether this was still a case when. Well, yes, where you store them. We use lock boxes in bedrooms now for people who don't have the capacity, little codes that you twirl and everything like that. So fully recommend that if you are using, and even if the person in that room who has that cream has capacity, does everybody else on that floor have capacity? And is that door always closed, or will they have access to potentially go in and steal them and use them or eat them or do whatever they want with them? So make sure you're storing your topical creams and ointments securely.
Based on risk.
For the love of God, if you have emollients, put them on a risk assessment and put that in their peeps, and not just them. Make sure the laundry know that there's laundry coming to them full of emollients, because we don't want the laundry building setting on fire. We don't want the home setting on fire. We don't want blankets going from poor Mary, Julie's Mary, who's got all the
Poor Mary's having a tough time.
Honestly, we don't want her emollient-laced blanket being swapped over to somebody else who wants to go outside and have a cigarette, because you'll then have a bloody epitaph in your front garden or wherever it is they're smoking. So, just for the love of God, risk assess
you'll get closed down and prosecuted.
Yeah, risk assess your emollients, please. I don't want to spend too much time on TMARs and topicals because we could probably fill a whole show just on them, and how we're managing them. Mark, I'm going to come to you for the last question in the chat and then over to you.
Yes, I've got a question, but it is around returns, and then I'll bring the question in. What about returns direct to the pharmacy? Can a care home just take them to a pharmacy with a form that they've created that acknowledges that the pharmacist will sign it, so they've
build it in the policy and procedure. What's their policy and procedure saying? What's their risk management strategy saying? How do they intend to do that? Or is their pharmacist coming to collect them? So you need to have it built in, and you need to sign out double-ended then. So you need to sign out from the service and sign into the pharmacy if you're going to take them there. But put your policy around it and put your risk management strategy around it. To be absolutely honest with you can do just about everything with a decent risk strategy.
Well, you've had it here, you've had it here. Right, we've got a question here from Catherine. Regarding disposal of controlled drugs in nursing homes, is a T28 exemption certificate in place?
I don't know what she means.
Well, nor do I. I'm not going to lie. Adam, do you know what a T28 exemption certificate is? Let me have a Google.
I'm sure it was in like a James Cameron movie. He tried to kill Sarah O'Connor or something, didn't he? Or is that something completely different? That's just the Terminator, isn't it? No, I have no idea what a T28 is.
I think I've got an idea, but I don't want to guess at it.
T28 waste exemption, sorting and denaturing controlled drugs.
Denaturing and controlled drugs, but that will come from the waste disposable contract you've got. You've got a contract for it. There has to be a separate contract, and the company will have the T28 exemption certificate in place.
Perfect.
So you will have a contract with them because they're your disposing of your clinical waste.
Yeah. So basically, vet your contractors and make sure that they've got them in place.
Yeah.
And,
make sure you've got a contract. Yeah.
You wouldn't ask Biffa to come and know full well that Biffa's going to fly tip around the corner. When you want to make sure that they've got everything they're supposed to have in place. So let's just make sure that we're not selling, or giving our drug waste to companies that are just going to go off and do what they want with them. This is a denaturing box, but it's not really. Do your due diligence, but. Good point, Julie. It should be with the contractors.
The contract.
My experience at Biffa is I won't be fly tipping because I don't ever turn up. So you have an absolute.
There goes a potential sponsor opportunity, doesn't it, Mark?
Right, we've got 4 minutes. What do I want to go to? Let's go to blame culture very quickly. How can we
haven't
stop?
got anywhere near it.
No. How can we stop a blame culture? What are your top tips?
Don't investigate with the idea of blaming someone. If you're going to do an investigation, what you're wanting to look at is what is wrong with the system and the process that has failed. There's a whole initiative from the NHS, which you guys probably haven't come across yet. PSERFs, Patient Safety Incident Response Framework. Yeah.
Oh my God! So it's just coming into place now. I had an email the other week saying, "Can you
It's
send us your
been in place for 2
PSRIS
years.
policy?"
It's
And I'm
been
like,
in place for 2 years within the
"It's
NHS.
coming."
Yeah. Now, but it doesn't translate well down to small services. It's actually within NHS contracts. If you've got an NHS contract, you are obligated to follow PSERPs. But the principles behind it are about no blame. They are about doing investigations that look at what's the system failure, what's the learning we can do, how can we improve the service. It's not hanging out to people to dry. Now, to be absolutely honest with you, that's lovely, but let's not forget, if I've got somebody making the same mistake time after time after time after time, I really do think I need to do something about that. It's not a it's a no blame culture, but it's also a support the right people culture. And make sure that if we've given the right support and they're still doing it, we do need to do something a bit different. But so we wait from that. So the no blame culture, you do all know where the no blame culture came from, don't you? I'm going to be really sad. NASA.
No, from where?
NASA. It was actually NASA that developed the no blame culture back in the 1980s. And
Was that
funnily
after
enough,
Challenger?
no,
Oh,
but it was about, if you set up a culture where you blame somebody for doing something, what's going to happen is they're going to stop reporting it. And it's
yes.
going to go underground. And you want a no blame culture because you actually want the safety culture that comes with that, where psychological safety as well, where people feel empowered to report that something has gone on so that something can be done about it. Because if you don't know about it, you can't do anything about it. And if they think that they're just going to be shot down in flames because they've done something wrong, they're not going to tell you.
And
No,
I suppose there's also this element of when we do our investigations, going, oh well, it was Joe Bloggs who gave Mary her wrong medication, so they're at fault. But actually, when was the last time you did a competency assessment? When was the last time you did some refresher training? When was the last time actually you gave someone training and then they assessed the efficacy of that training? When was the last time you did a supervision and asked them whether they felt supported or whether they had the knowledge to deliver those medicines? Did they have all of the right medicines in place? Is the equipment available for them to do those medication rounds effectively? Counting triangles and all of that. It's super important that actually you look at a root cause analysis for the whole scenario and go, what did we do well? What did we not do so well? What could we do better next time? And making sure you make a holistic approach to continuous learning rather than just, well, he gave the wrong meds. That's what went wrong. You can't do this again moving forwards, because actually by doing that you've negated any sort of wrongdoing of the process. You've already inhibited yourself from improving a process because you just put all the blame into one person. And then when you do those learning outcomes, share them with people, share them with your team at your clinical governance meetings. This is something that happened this week. This is what we identified that went wrong, and this is what we think might help us moving forwards and what might prevent this happening again. Do you have any ideas? Do you have some suggestions for us? Do you know how we can use this incident to improve and learn and move forward? And then if you're part of a bigger group, share them across your group. Tell your other nursing homes that you work with, this is something that happened with us, just FYI, in case it happens at your ends, this is what we're going to do about it. Learn from our mistakes. Hugely, hugely important. Have we done a show on learning outcomes and lessons learned, Mark, before?
No, although I'll make a note, because I did just write one around culture and good investigations, because I thought that'd be a good follow-up. So no, I'll
You
write
just
that around.
you started this conversation with the regulations, and you're about to end it with exactly that, because the very first quality statement is
Learning culture. Is it learning culture or is it
lessons learned and learning
lessons
culture?
learned?
It's the whole lot. It's the same thing. But going back to Catherine's point, she put up about the T28 for the denaturing kit, because my eyes were attracted to it. And the T28 for the dupe kits. But again, it can depend, because some of your contractors that you've got for disposal of clinical waste, the dupe kits come from them. So they've got the license. So again, it depends on what's in your contract and whether you need to do it for your own self as well.
We have had a comment from Charlie as well regarding the
PSERVs, yeah.
PSERV. We've just
P-Serve.
started to replicate some of the learning from the P-Serve in our small homes. It's been incredibly beneficial. So
It sounds like you're trying to say piss off under your breath, doesn't
piss
it?
off.
Piss off.
Exactly. That's exactly what you're trying to say. It actually started off with a better acronym and it ended up with P-Serve. So, you know, patient safety.
Well, there's no escaping it in
Very
Lancashire and
much.
South Cumbria. It's coming. So
Yeah, but you're going to
hopefully-
be careful you don't get dragged into another subject that we will have a conversation about for P-Serves at some other time. Right, we're already over, so I'm going to do your job for you and tell you that we're already over the point of time. But I did want to leave you with a couple of facts and figures.
Okay.
I told these to Mark earlier before, so let's see whether you can guess them as well. How many medicines errors are there in a year in care homes in the UK?
In all care homes collectively.
Yeah, collectively, how many roughly?
And are we thinking like a missed medicines, a medication error,
Everything, any kind of error.
missed
Talk all
signature?
over. Yeah, from top to bottom. Any kind. How many medicines errors in a year?
So I'm going to say 1.5 million.
Okay.
I guessed at 1 million.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I said it's got to be over 1 million.
94 million.
Fudge! Oh!
94 million. Vast majority of which are no harm. Vast majority of which may be a simple admin error. You didn't sign the MAR. You gave the medicine, but you didn't sign the MAR. There's 94 million. It's also estimated that 57% of all residents in care homes will have been involved in one medication error as a minimum.
How many of those do you reckon go unreported?
This was the point I was going to come to. When do
Oh.
you report them? Yeah, it's all right. No, I was going to come to that. There is a criteria for reporting medication areas to under notification 18 SN18 to CQC. It's quite specific though. It isn't you don't send everything that you've missed a signature to CQC. You'll do it if there's harm come to the patient or it's neglect or person, service user, patient, whatever name we're going to call people this week. I've given up. Mary. I'm going to stay with Mary because Mary's poor, having a tough time anyway. So we might as well carry on punishing the poor woman. So, but yeah, so there's certain criteria. But that is something. If you know and CQC knows there's 94 million and they rock up to your care home and you've got no reported incidents on medication, what do you think that says? It says you're not recognising your incidences, even if it's minor, that it's just a missing signature. How do we deal with that?
Yeah.
How did that missing signature happen? 90% of the time, the reason why there's a missing signature in the MAR is you didn't take your MAR with you when you went to give the patient the medicine and you forgot to sign it 3 hours later when you went off and did something else. So 90% of the time, that's what happens with that. But it's worth knowing that statistic, and it's also worth knowing it's that amount. So that if you got an inspector and a CQC inspector and you've got no medicines incidences, they're questioning that.
I think so in an ideal world, I would love every single thing like this reported internally. You've got a log of them, you've got a record of them, you've checked into them. I understand how difficult it is for providers sometimes to go through that process because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of paperwork.
Well, that's where the P-Serve's coming in, Adam, because you're looking for your trends and themes. You're not literally investigating every single one. You're looking for your trends and themes. So I've had 7 incidences in the last month where medications were given, but the MAR wasn't signed for. There's a theme. Let's deal with that theme. I don't need to deal with each 7. I need to deal with the theme, which is where P-Serve is going to be useful.
And that's how we're evolving most of our services now, where we are literally just looking at themes and trends across and going. And that's why our audits are essential for us. You know, it's fine that your systems give you reports, your emails give you reports, PCS gives you reports, but actually what do you do with that information? So you print your report off, it says, right, you've had 11 missed medicines this month. Great. Okay. What days did they happen? What was the theme around that? Was it at a certain time? Was it a certain medication? Is it a certain resident? You know, what's happened on those days to lead up to that? Same with your falls. You know, have a look at your falls. What time of the day are your falls happening? Is it just before lunch? Is it just after lunch? Is it in the middle of the night when your team aren't sleeping on duty? You know, what is it that is linking those falls together? Same with your wounds analysis, same with your infections analysis. You should be looking at your themes and trends across the board now for all of these areas. And this is where reporting comes into play, but where auditing and your data analytics is most essential, because it highlights where you need to do your quality improvements. It highlights where you can change processes to mitigate further risks moving forwards. We could do a full show on that as well. Mark, I feel like I've been re-energized tonight. I feel like, ooh.
Well, at least your name's not Mary, so we're already ahead of the game.
I know, right? My sister's
Poor
middle
Mary.
name's Mary, so her ears are probably burning.
Realistic. One last thing, though, to leave you with. Most CQC inspectors do see medicines as the canary in the mine. If your medicines are off, there's a guarantee your systems are off.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, and they will tell you all kinds. So medicines will always give you a whole load of information. The whole thing that we talked about, you've got Regulation 11, your covert medications, you've got your person-centered care going on. Your medicines will tell you who's got higher needs, who needs special diets, who's at risk because they're on hyaluronic acid once a week, so they're at higher risk when they're in falls. They will tell you all kinds. So most CQC inspectors will have a right good nosy at your medicines, and they will be the canary, and they will tell them all kinds before they've even done anything else. They've just looked at your meds.
Yeah, and if you think about it, let's whack Reg 15 in there as well, which is premises and equipment.
Yes.
Because let's say you walk into your clinical room and, I don't know, the windows hanging out open, the ceiling's falling down, you've not got an aircon in there and the temperature's at 27 degrees and there's a hole in the floor and the sink's leaking. If that's how you treat your sacred clinical room, what's the rest of the home like? I'm going to start pulling on these threads of this jumper and I'm going to unravel it as much as I can. So it is really important that you make sure. In fact, you probably nail most of your regulations just in your clinical room. And if you get them all
just
right,
on your medicines, you will hit pretty much the vast majority of your regulations just on your medicines, even though you think they only sit in Regulation 12, they don't.
Yeah.
The only one I can't think of that they don't affect is going to be food and drink, because that's about special diets. But then again, they might hit there on that as well, because you might be prescribed some supplements.
Supplements, yeah.
That they're not getting. I did once make my colleague and myself, my pharmacy inspector colleague, count all of the supplements, because people were being prescribed supplements, but they were losing weight. So we counted them, and we counted how many they should have, how many they'd signed for, and how many they'd received. And yeah, they definitely weren't getting them.
Yeah. But not only that,
there was hundreds of them.
Link through to your IDSI diet and your thickness as well. HITS hydration.
Oh, thickness. Oh, the most dangerous over-the-counter medication ever.
We've not got time, Julie. We've not got time. I'm going to close us down. I'm going to close. But you are more than welcome back at any point to discuss any of the stuff we've not been able to discuss tonight.
Feel free.
Listen, Julie, absolutely amazing. The love for tonight's show is evident in the comments. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And it's always a learning day with you as well. I'm always learning when I'm around you. And it's absolutely fabulous. Mark, any final comments before I close us out tonight?
No, just thank you very much, Julie, for giving up your Tuesday evening to join us. I think.
Thank you for everybody who joined us. It's been a pleasure.
I know,
it's nice of them to be engaged as well.
Yes. This is it. In social care, we must be engaged, because if you don't get engaged, you get left behind. And if you get left behind, you get closed down. Pretty much. You've got to be able to evidence that you are continually learning. It's even a quality statement that managers are out there upskilling themselves, updating their knowledge. I have managers in my service who use this as part of their learning, which I find incredible. I mean, I find it humbling and I find it crazy that they come onto the show to listen and learn. But we've literally had things implemented in our services now because managers have come and watched this and gone, do you know what? That's great. Let's try that. That's a really good point. Why don't we try that? And for me, that is really gratifying, because it's like, oh, great. We are supporting people out there. It doesn't have to be the Caring View. Get involved with anything out there. But as managers, you've got to be able to evidence you are continually upskilling, continually learning, continually doing what you can. And if you don't do any of that, it's not a great future for you. So get engaged, get going. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to all of our fabulous, wonderful sponsors, Prosper Well, Log My Health, Florence, Health Automated, Learning Mint, Log My Care, Artis Insurance Brokers, Every Step Care Consultancy. I hope to God I've not missed one of you. CBAT, Care Associates, Care Associates Business Training. And I think that's all of you. You're all amazing. It is fabulous. Mark, we're back next Tuesday. What are we chatting?
We are indeed back next Tuesday, and we are discussing Health Connect. So I don't know whether you've seen them well, you won't have seen them, Adam. You're not on social media anymore, but it's a new AI revolution. So they were meant to join us a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, they're joining us next week just to talk about kind of their product and how it can. I think it's going to shape kind of how we're used to digital platforms and AI and utilizing kind of and triangulating that. So yeah, it'll be an interesting conversation.
I'm going to let you off. It's been a while since we've had an AI chat on this show, so I will let the AI people off next week. Now,
You're
I'm
safe.
intrigued.
I don't think there's many. There's not many other. I'm just looking down the list to the end of the year because we are actually nearly end of the year. I think if you haven't started your Christmas shopping yet, you definitely need to start
I've
thinking about
started
it.
planning my Christmas menu. I've also got my Christmas pajamas ready.
No.
I'm not going to lie. All the garden centres around here have got Christmas trees for sale in there already. Like everything's up. Baubles are out. Like
You're
it's
insane.
it's on the way. It's on the way. So
If it were me, it'd be Christmas every day. Christmas every day. You're most welcome, Petros. Mwah to you. Right, before we go, don't forget to subscribe. Follow us on YouTube. You will get links to everything that we do on YouTube. There is a new episode going out on our podcast up until the mid-September as well. So do go and listen to the podcast. If you are missing us on your screens, go and check us out there. But until then, please stay safe. Take care. And we will see you live 7:30 next Tuesday across all of your favorite platforms. Good night. Thank you, Julie.
thank you.
Welcome. Bye.